Hello class, welcome to lesson 25 where we are going to write fractions as a percent. Go ahead and zoom into the top half for those of you copying along at home. 25. Now you can probably pause it. Alright, here is the bottom half of the screen. Go ahead and pause that. Alright, let's take a look. Today's lesson we are going to seek to answer the question, how can fractions be used to find percents? So basically we're going to take a fraction, turn it into a percent. Task, in order to answer that question, is three parts, or three options. Fractions can be scaled up or down until you reach the denominator of 100, or you can model a fraction, or you can divide the denominator by the numerator. So as you can see, there are three ways to do this. You scale it up or down until you reach 100, or you can model a fraction, or you can divide the denominator by the numerator. So we have three options. Okay, let's take a look at those options. A very important thing to remember while we're doing this is that a fraction must be part to whole. Alright, so the whole has to be on the bottom. The whole, not as in like there's a hole in that thing, but it's whole as in it's not broken up. So we have the part to the whole. Okay, so our example is 4 out of 5 gumballs were red. What percent was red? Okay, I don't know what to do, Mr. Fields. How can I make this happen? First thing to do, always, write that ratio. So we have 4 out of the 5. So when we read this, 4 is the part and 5 is the whole, because we have 4 out of the 5 gumballs that are there. So we can write that pretty easily as a fraction 4/5, because 4 is the part and 5 is the whole. 4 is the part, 5 is the whole. So the 4 goes on top because it's the part, and the 5 goes on the bottom because it's the whole. Alright, now I'm going to clean some of this up so we can actually do some work. So let's go ahead and take a look at our first technique up here, which we've underlined in red. We take our fraction, we scale it up or down until the denominator reaches 100. So let's take that fraction, 4 over 5, where 5 is our denominator. Okay, but we know that our denominator eventually needs to become 100. In order to get from 5 to 100, obviously we scale it up, so we're going to multiply. Right, now if you've noticed, what we did here is what we've been doing in class. Step 1, I wrote the fraction or the ratio. Step 2, I wrote my denominator or my goal, what I'm trying to get to, right? I'm trying to get to 100 as a denominator. So if you can know this off the top of your head, or you maybe have to divide, but 5 times what equals 100? That's going to be 5 times 20 equals 100. If you do 20 on the bottom, you got to do 20 on the top. So 4 times 20 equals 80. So we have 80 over 100. A couple ways to think of this. We can say 80 over 100. We can say 80 hundredths. Or if you remember from yesterday's lesson, we can say 80. And we know our fraction bar can mean per. And then 100 is also known as cent. So 80%. And there we go. We've got 80%. Same thing we did here. We took 4/5, scaled it up to 80 over 100, 80%. Now next, we have our second technique, which is you can model a fraction. Okay? So if our fraction is 4/5, like we said before, the fifths is the whole. So when we come to draw our model, we're going to see that the whole model, the entire rectangle, is going to have 5 sections. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So when we draw this, the whole is going to equal 5 boxes, which is going to equal 100%, because a whole is always 100%. So we see here in our model, we have 5 boxes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the whole thing is 100%. If we divide this 100% into these 5 boxes, in order to know what value each of those boxes has in it, we need to divide 100 by the 5 boxes. So let's do 100 divided by 5, that is 20. So each box is worth 20%. Alrighty? Now that we've figured out how much each box is worth in our model, we look at the part. If we are only talking about 4 parts in this whole, we have 20, 40, 60, 80% that's shaded. So here we have 80% in our model. I'm going to go ahead and clean this up and get rid of a few things. So finally we are going to look at our third technique that we've underlined here in yellow. Third technique is you can divide the denominator by the numerator. So if you recall, our fraction is 4/5. We know that, 4 out of 5. So if we divide the numerator by the denominator, it will look like this. 4 divided by 5. 4 divided by 5 is 0.8. You can add a 0. And we know that 0.80 is 80 hundredths. And we know that if it is in hundredths terms, it's just going to be 80%. If you don't believe me that 4 divided by 5 is 0.8, then we'll make some room out here, and we'll do it like that. So 4 divided by 5, which means the 4 goes inside the house, 5 goes outside the house. How many times does 5 go into 4? It doesn't, so we add ourselves a decimal and a 0, bring our decimal up. How many times does 5 go into 40? 8 times. 8 times 5 is 40. Got a remainder 0. So we have 0.8. Now, like I said a moment ago, we can add a 0. We can attach this 0 here to the end of that 8 to make it 80 hundredths. And anything in the hundredths is going to be, you could rewrite this decimal as 80 hundredths, and anything over 100 is that as a percent. So that's going to be 80 per 100, 80%. So that's our answer. Alright, those are 3 different ways that you can turn a fraction into a percent. Now your work, what percent is 4/25?